Greetings from Costa Rica and welcome to today's live broadcast regarding affordable land. My name is Matt Rosensteel, aka hashtag Costa Rica Matt. It's Sunday, September 18th, and I'm glad today to be connecting with all of you regarding affordable land, and I really have two purposes today. First, I do want to give some general tips for finding those cheap land deals and being able to really locate the opportunities here in Costa Rica. And second of all, I want to simply summarize some of the most affordable land listings in our area. Because frankly, I get a lot of people who are looking for the most affordable home site possible in Guanacaste. And I'd like to provide them information about 4 key listings that are land parcels in our area that I would say are the most affordable and really the best opportunities that I have to offer. And I'd love to summarize them in one place so that we have all of the information simply put into one broadcast that people can refer to if you're out there looking for one of the most affordable options to get close to the beach here in Guanacaste. I'm grateful to be spending Sunday with everybody. As a reminder, on Sundays at 11 a.m., I am always doing a live broadcast on one aspect or another of moving to Costa Rica. Be sure to subscribe to my channel to stay updated as to what those topics are and the listings we're going to be promoting. Thanks again for joining me today for this broadcast about land for sale in Guanacaste, and stay tuned. Greetings from Costa Rica, folks. Today, I'm glad to be talking about the most affordable land parcels we have for sale in our area. But first, I want to touch on just some general tips for finding land here in our area. And first and foremost, if you're one of those hopeful individuals out there, if you're looking to homestead in Costa Rica and your quest is to find a really big piece to farm and to create your own food production, you should probably be looking in another part of the country just as a starting point. And I want to give some history for the region as a reason for that. Guanacaste, the northwestern part of the country here in Costa Rica, had an international airport in Liberia open in 2000, or rather they started bringing international flights down in the late 90s. That fueled a development boom in the entire area close to the airport and really radiating out towards the coastline, because these beaches are absolutely beautiful, and because the access to the airport was created in the late 90s, all of a sudden you had a land boom in this area. And simply put, Guanacaste is a place where you already saw a development frenzy from 2000 until 2008, when the crash hit us, that really elevated land values overall. So if your goal is to find the biggest piece of land at the best price so that you can really focus on food production or growing that dream farm you have, another region of the country that's not quite so influenced by tourism and foreign investment would probably be a better place to look. Yes, there are affordable pieces of land for sale in our area. Yes, we're going to talk about a few of those. However, in general, you're going to see that the price for a square foot of raw land anywhere in this region where you've got such a strong influence and interest from foreigners is going to be substantially more than a square foot of property in other locations in Costa Rica. Steve, Jeff, and Rich, thanks very much for joining me. I appreciate it. Anyone else who wants to give a shout out in the comments, be sure to do so. I also wanted to mention that Next week on September 25th, we will be doing our monthly roundup. So I'll be touching on viewer questions submitted anytime before next Sunday, the 25th, and trying to cover topics that you've asked me about. So anyhow, in the northwestern part of Costa Rica, Guanacaste, you do see that land values are generally higher than other places. And as a result, if your focus is finding the biggest piece of land for sale available, again, another part of the country might be a better opportunity. In this area, even those remote farms with bad access are now owned by people who saw the last land rush, and many of them want prices that aren't really that exceptional opportunity that you might be able to find in places where land really isn't as appreciated, or rather the value hasn't been pushed up by this development boom. In my area, I have a lot of farmers who are absolutely looking to sell their property. In fact, because of that land boom, most of them are hoping to be able to sell their property at some really substantial price now compared to what it was 20 years ago. Personally, I tell everybody in my area not to sell because I've seen that over and over, it's the quickest way for a family to lose its wealth over a couple generations. And I've also seen that if you're a foreigner looking for property in this area, and if a foreigner takes an interest in a particular parcel, they have some opportunity that they see with it that maybe they're going to take advantage of a landowner here, and really they're going to benefit by holding on to their land parcel long term. So I'm afraid to say I can't offer you huge, cheap farms for sale. I'm sure they are still somewhere in our area. I'm sure you can still find families who are motivated to turn their land into any cash whatsoever. But today I want to talk more about those affordable bits and pieces of land that are very close to the beach that would make a good home site for expats moving down to our area. And in fact, I don't want to touch on those larger parcels that you might find. Obviously, I do not have every single piece of land for sale on my website, and neither does any realtor. There's no MLS in Costa Rica. And as a result, one of my biggest tips for going to look for land is that A, you shouldn't be doing this search online because the listings simply aren't there. And B, you also shouldn't do it online because you won't be able to really understand what a parcel represents until you see it in person. And finally, when you're going about this search, rather than just going onto a website and trying to find listings out there, you do have to be on the ground with somebody who knows the area. The listings that I'm going to talk about, the 4 lowest priced sort of opportunities in our area that are representative of what you can find, are parcels that I know have water service, electrical service. I know they're fully titled. I have a lot of confidence that the property is going to be something someone can acquire, and that we're not going to see any huge issues when we get into a due diligence process. A lot of people decide to hit the ground in Costa Rica and immediately look for those for sale by owner land parcels because, yeah, they know that I don't have every listing on my site, and they figure that they can find something that's a better opportunity by looking for those Se Vende signs around the neighborhood. Well, very often, those Se Vende signs will connect you with someone who only has an interest in trying to sell that piece of land, and really they may have no interest whatsoever in informing you that no, it doesn't have legal water access, or that the fences are not correct, that there's an overlap with a neighboring property, or that they don't have legally registered access, on and on and on. The people who come into Guanacaste and try and find their own piece of land for sale can end up in a lot of issues where they may even have to wait for the property to be segregated because they've seen a se vende sign, but the farmer is really only going to segregate new lots. Or, for example, they might not have actual permits to do the kind of segregation that they're planning. And really, you definitely need somebody on the ground aside from that seller who's helping you guide you when you're looking at different land parcels. One of the keys to finding the absolute cheapest piece of land in Costa Rica is connecting directly with a farmer. But however, or rather with a big family landowner here, I've seen a lot of foreigners attempt this. I've seen a lot of people end up in endless sales processes or where they can't actually finalize buying the property because, well, the seller had to segregate it, then they had to take electricity, then they had to take water, et cetera, et cetera. As a general rule of thumb, I think that the people who can be successful buying that cheap piece of land where they've worked directly with a Costa Rican landowner are going to be the people who are very fluent in Spanish and also extremely patient and willing to work with the Costa Rica bureaucracies. I feel confident that I would be able to scout out among these se vende signs and work with a seller long enough to be able to purchase the land. I think a lot of foreigners coming fresh into Guanacaste would be very much headed down a bad path towards a difficult experience if they tried to do this themselves. James, glad you're joining us as well. I've got a couple ideas for you and Brandy and everybody. Anyhow, let's start talking about some of these land parcels that I have for sale that I think are some of the best opportunities. If you're watching this retroactively, or rather in the replay version, we will have links in the description to all of the different moments where I'm talking about these specific parcels to give you ideas so that you can flip through to them. Should have said that earlier in the broadcast, but oh well. And let's start off here. I want to give one of the home sites that I feel is actually that with my knowledge of the local inventory here in Playa Junquillal, one of the current lots that is available for sale in our area that is absolutely the best price for getting close to the beach is a $55,000 parcel here in Playa Junquillal. And as we zoom in on Google Maps, you'll be able to see where I drop this pin here. This is literally a 350-yard walking distance down to the beach in our quiet community. The parcel's entrance is right about here. This particular property that's asking $55,000 with the buyer paying closing costs measures 1,291 square meters. That's just over a quarter of an acre. And to give you an idea of what this parcel looks like, I actually have a little video walking around the lot here. You'll see that some of these parcels that have better prices and are very much the best offer on the market are going to be ones with a little bit trickier topography. And here, as we take a look walking along this lot, you can see we're coming from the main road down onto the property. It actually has a golf club shape where the part of the brush that is cut down is the entrance to the lot. And you're actually owning property that's down the slope here from the lot that's still covered in brush to our right. So down away from the road, you do have this nice flat area. They've got most of the native species trees still growing there. But this is exemplary of what's happened in our area because It's one of a series of 5 pieces of property, and all 4 of the other lots in this series have all sold because they had slightly more attractive topography and price points. And in the last 18 months, we have seen people buying up every single attractive option in our area. And this would be what's remaining, lot number 2 here. If you're interested in this specific piece of property or other listings that I talk about here on my channel today, do be sure to email me at matt@cbpacificrealty.com. These listings, so for example, that was a $55,000 quarter acre that's only a few hundred yards from the beach. It's fully titled land. It has the electrical connection, a water availability. There's fiber optic running along the front of the property. And it's one of the few home sites that are that close to the beach that I know of anywhere under $100,000, let's say, in Guanacaste's Gold Coastline. We'll look at one option that's even more affordable than that at the end of the list here today. But next, I wanted to go over to a location that might be a little bit less interesting for people who want to walk to the beach quickly, but a lot that's over by another absolutely spectacular beach in our area, which is called Playa Blanca. And we'll head over here on our trusty maps again. Again, this was lot number 2. We're calling it, asking price $55,000, and it measures 1,291 square meters. If you go a bit north in our community and head off the beaten path just a little bit, you get to a hidden corner of the woods called Calle Perro Loco. Now, this is a $40,000 lot that I'm going to talk about right now. But in Guanacaste right now, you'll see that at $40,000, a home site is not going to be walking distance, quick jog down to the beach, and just as quick out to a paved road. And in fact, the lot we just looked at had pavement ending only a half mile down the road from it. This next property, let's take a look first at, this is where our paved highway ends. And if you drive back down what is affectionately called Calle Perro Loco in our area, you head probably about 3/4 of a mile back into the woods into an extremely quiet area back here. We currently have an owner here who has 1,286 square meters of land. It's this specific little piece of land here cut in a pod of 6 lots, and they're asking only $40,000 for it. To my knowledge, it's among the absolute most affordable options on the market currently in our area. At $40,000, it's fully titled. Yes, there is a water line that runs along the main road right here. Yes, you have electrical access, and you can walk out to the beach on back roads and paths through this area, but it can be a little bit of a walk, and most people from that particular lot would drive out to town and then come back out to the beach, and it would be a 5 to 10 minute drive to the beach. But there you see it, $40,000, really one of the best beachside home sites available in our area. I expect to get some calls from people because I know that there isn't much inventory at that price. I really want to hear from people who already have seen the area and know what Calle Perro Loco is like. This is an area tucked back into the very quiet Guanacaste woods. But you can imagine the road from the paved highway back to that lot, which is maybe an 8-minute drive. Those 8 minutes are on a dirt road that can have pretty bad potholes at certain times of the year. It does get muddy. It very much feels like the real Guanacaste. But if you're willing to drive just a little bit off the beaten path, you can find opportunities like that, a $40,000 lot where, at least for the foreseeable future, you don't have any neighbors. You can look and see that here in this pod of 6 lots, nobody else has built yet, and you would actually be surrounded by forest on every side rather than having to deal with, loud neighbors, etc. That home site would not be for everybody. A lot of people want to be closer to action, and they want to live in a town where there's more surf and more interesting things happening. One of the towns in our area that has been quickly growing is Playa Avellanas. And to give you a sort of an overview of the market here, these affordable opportunities and the cheapest possibilities that you can find are going to be in areas that don't necessarily have an organic source of tourism or a draw that brings people from the outside just because it's great. In Playa Avellanas, you have a world-famous surf break, one of the area's best swimming beaches, really, a place that's great for people of all ages to get into the ocean. And Avellanas recently got water access, which essentially for the last decade, the lack of water in the community had really restricted development, and people essentially, if they wanted to purchase close to this world famous surf break in such an idyllic beach town, they would have to deal without water service or try and find another solution for that. For a decade, people were dealing with their own hand dug wells. There were all kinds of mini projects that had shallow, artisan wells here that they could at least get a little bit of water from. But now, as an example of what it costs you in Avellanas to get close to the beach, one of the 3 lots for sale currently in the community of Avellanas, and we'll go back to our trusty tab here, is this parcel located only a few blocks from the water itself, just off the main road in Avellanas. And you can see here that a home site in a place like this with your world famous surf break just next door is costing $189,000. This is a 1,000 square meter parcel, again, right at that quarter acre. But you're a few blocks from one of Costa Rica's best surf beaches. You're really close to Lola's and the iconic beachfront restaurant there. And you're nestled in one of Costa Rica's really up and coming communities where you actually have, sort of this explosive growth already happening. Avellanas is a community where you've already seen a 51 home project, a residential community, get started and sell out over the last couple years because it's such a popular spot. So this home site, again, a quarter acre, that close to world famous Playa Avellanas, asking price $189,000. And the key thing is here, it has one of the water letters that was granted to Avellanas and the new community expansion for the pipeline. So it's a site that's actually ready to build rather than waiting for hypothetical water access in the future. Finally, let's talk about my most affordable home sites here in Costa Rica right now on the market. I have some lots for sale as low as $30,000. Again, these are going to be in a location that doesn't immediately appeal to everybody in the world. There's not a Walmart next door to these lots. You do have a pretty good drive to a paved highway, but This is the kind of option you can find if you're willing to explore a little bit off the beaten path. If really your goal is to find a peaceful spot in the woods and do so at as low of a price as possible, and if really your main motivation is to get down to Costa Rica, find a spot in the real Guanacaste, and enjoy something like the real Costa Rica lifestyle, because a lot of people don't necessarily want to be in those overdeveloped areas. And if you want to be off into the real Costa Rica, let's take a look here as soon as I can pull it up again on my little broadcast thing here. So if we head south from Junquillal, you have the paved highway that runs out to our area here, and we'll look at here. You can see this yellow road is paved. Down here, you turn off the pavement to head south. And this highway, honestly, if people are looking for the area of biggest future growth in Costa Rica, I'll tell you right now, it's happening somewhere between Junquillal, our area here, and Nosara down to the south. There is this stretch of coastline here that goes all the way from Paraíso down to Nosara, where there are very, very few foreigners who have bought in so far. There are no private schools that have established themselves in this specific stretch. And because the highway is unpaved all the way from here down south, it tends to be undiscovered and raw. There are no Westins or Marriotts down here in this area. But down towards Lagarto here, just in front of what is the Playa Lagarto Eco Development, we've just listed 3 lots for sale here that are actually located. So here's your main highway going south to Nosara. You turn off that, and right at the entrance here where you end up, let me get oriented here, just past this project of villas at the front of Eco Lagarto, at the intersection of these rural roads, you've got 3 lots for sale. And sorry, people were just passing by the window. Here we have 3 lots for sale. They're all approximately that 1/4 acre size, or just a little bit bigger. And these lots, one is priced $30,000 and 2 others are priced $35,000. So just to give you a context of where they are in the Guanacaste coastline, you're about 45 minutes driving distance, let's say more like 50 to 55 minutes from our municipal county capital of Santa Cruz. You're probably an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half up to Tamarindo, and about 2.5 hours up to the Liberia International Airport. But at $30,000, they represent exceptions to the rule that in this stretch of coastline, typically any piece of property has already doubled, tripled, quadrupled in value over the last 20 years as foreigners have driven increased property values. And not just foreigners, but the entire development of the tourism industry. So if you would be interested in learning more about these specific parcels, do be sure to send me an email to matt@cbpacificrealty.com. Before I go, I wanted to wrap up with the funniest thing that happened to me this week, as I promised to do. Not in this episode, but previously. And as always, I want to start bringing in some moments that bring into play the joy and the flavor of living in this area of Costa Rica. And so I have a guy that this past week, he always fixes up my car, and his specialty is repairing problems with tires. In fact, his little shop just says tire repair. Just this past week, I took my car to him and I said, look, I've got the front right tire leaking air. And in addition, I also would like you to clean the car because he does car washes. And I needed him to change the oil as well. So I gave him those 3 things to do. When I picked up the car, I remember specifically, and this is a Costa Rica cultural moment that foreigners need to understand. I honestly can't believe I fell for it, but I got in the car. He'd actually been about 15 minutes late bringing the car back. It was sparkling. He talked about how he really, really had to get down in there because there was a ton of dirt. The oil change had taken a little longer than he planned because the little thing was corroded. And I said to him, oh, yeah, and of course, you fixed the tire leak as well. And the guy gave me this 2-second hesitation, or a fraction of a second of hesitation, and said, yeah, I fixed the tire. And I said, oh, good. Was it a nail or was it a rock, or what had done that to the tire? And he said, oh, it was a valvula flow hole, or a loose valve. And I've lived here far too long to have bought into this, but he was being very polite. Today, I was getting ready to come in to the live broadcast and go out to the driveway. And of course, that front right tire is absolutely flat again. The guy, in a Costa Rican moment of not wanting to upset me, just said, yes, I fixed it, to be polite. And even after living here 14 years, I'm still surprised to see that my tire is flat when specifically I had asked if he took care of the leak. But anyhow, I will look forward to everyone joining me next Sunday at 11 a.m. for our monthly Q&A roundup. We will also go over Costa Rica news for the month of September, talk about Independence Day a little bit, and everything that's been going on here in the country. My name is Matt Rosensteel, Matt at cbpacificrealty.com. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.